Welcome to the Fellowship Podcast, a place where we get to know the people who make up the Baptist Bible Fellowship. In each episode, we sit down with pastors, missionaries, and ministry leaders from across our fellowship to hear their stories, their ministry journey, and a few lessons they've learned along the way. Our goal is simple: to connect leaders, share stories, and strengthen the mission. And now, here's your host, Randy Harp. Let's join the conversation.
Hey, welcome to our next episode of the Fellowship Podcast. My name is Randy Harp. I have the privilege of serving as your host on these conversations that I'm having with my friends, pastors and missionaries and ministry leaders from all across the country and really all around the world. So I'm excited today to introduce you to my friend Devins Jackson. He is pastoring in Alabama, but he is not a Roll Tide or an Auburn, right? He's a Go Gators.
Right. There you go. Go Gators.
Go
Shout out to
Gators.
new
Devins,
coach.
thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thank you, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, take just a second, Devins, and kind of introduce yourself. Share a little bit about your background. Where'd you grow up?
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm here in Huntsville, Alabama. I serve as the pastor of the Body of Christ Church. We planted some years ago, right before COVID, and so we now are in our location here in Drake Avenue on the west side of Huntsville. And so, just been kind of grinding it out, because, back from when COVID started, it just kind of threw us for a loop there. So I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on.
Yeah.
But, well, my salvation story comes a little bit different. I grew up in South Georgia, a little town called Manchester, Georgia, just there south of Atlanta. And so my grandfather was a deacon in the church, and the old Black Baptist church who had a mother. My grandmother was the head of the motherboard in the church. And so I was 12 years old. And now I was 12 years old. I was 12 years old when I accepted Christ, into my life. Me and my sister both got saved at the same time, kind of a little bit after, because I was 9 years old when my father was murdered. My father was murdered at 9, and life was just a little bit different, for us after that. And so we both were searching and, realizing that even at that age, I harbored a lot of, anger and resentment, and stuff like that. And so I was in service one Sunday, and the pastor was talking about forgiveness and all that good stuff. And so I leaned over to my mother and I said, you know what, I want to be saved, And so she was like, she looked at me, and kind of took a double take. She's like, what are you saying? I'm only 9. So I was like, I want to be saved. My sister said, I do too. So we both at that day received salvation and were baptized like a month later, because we only had service on second Sundays. And so went back and got baptized. And so, we just had that huge void, when my father was taken away. And so life was a little bit difficult. But, through that and navigating through those kind of things, kind of helped me, because I had grandparents who were pretty solid in faith. And so it's a little small church, Piney Grove Baptist Church, there in a little town called Waverly Hall, Georgia, just a little bit more south of where I grew up. So that's where my mother's parents and family was raised there.
Now, you just mentioned Second Sunday. Explain that to me. You only had church on Second Sundays?
Yeah, second and fourth Sunday was the Sundays that we had service at our church, because the pastor pastored another church that he preached on first and fourth Sunday. So he would only come to he would be there with us on second and third. I mean second and fourth, right? Yeah, second and fourth, and first and third at the other church. And so, and it's been like that for years. And I think it's just a traditional thing, because they still do that. And
They still do it now?
Yes, and the pastor he don't preach anywhere else. He's just off on those Sundays.
How do I get that pastor job? They say you'll passionately work 1 day a week. Yeah, he's only working
Exactly.
2 days a month.
2 days a month, man. He is second and fourth. I was like, that's crazy. But that's how
Yeah.
I grew up just going to church. But we went to other services on the Sundays that we didn't have service at our church.
So talk about your call to ministry. When did that happen? When did you know that God wanted you to use you in a
Mm.
type of full-time vocational ministry?
Yeah, well, I started dating a young lady who was in the church. I think I was probably about 15 at the time. I was sophomore in high school. And we started dating. She was very devout, Christian. She was, Church of Christ, of course, is she got me to go to church every Sunday. And just being there with her, of course, listening and being young, I had a lot of questions because it's totally different from what I was used to. And so I asked her dad to kind of start showing me some different things, and he worked with me, and I just got involved in church. I got involved in the ministry there, where we were attending. They had this young preachers class. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So I'm fine with, serving the communion and praying and leading prayer, doing that kind of stuff. I was good with that. So then they were trying to pull me into this preaching class. And so I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. But then, I guess come one Sunday morning, I just felt the urge and felt like God was pulling me towards it. And I had told the preacher, I said, hey, I think I'm going to join that class. And so I preached my first sermon. Actually, no, and when I went through the class, so I did that, then I was introduced to seminary. And so that's when I really knew that this was what God was wanting me to do. Because it just came, I was well, I put it like this. Many people don't believe that I'm a really quiet person, that I don't like being in front of people.
I don't believe that either.
So, a lot of folks don't believe that about me, but I am. And that was like huge for me, but it felt so natural
Hmm.
when I first did it. So I was like, yeah, this is what God wants me to do.
Who were
So
some of those early influencers in your life? You talked about the girlfriend at the time, her dad, and someone else.
yes.
Who were some of those? Who were some other key influencers in your life early on?
Oh, my grandfather. He was, like I said, he was a deacon in the church, man, and I just grew up around him, watching him lead devotions and doing different things. And my grandmother was always, she was my Sunday school teacher, and so it was just like it was more of family at the beginning, and then, later on as I began to get into ministry, God placed some great people, in my life. Guy that I still to this day consider a spiritual father is William Stevens, who just retired. He's pastor up in Durham, North Carolina, which was a Church of Christ. So he was kind of like one of those older pastors that kind of took me under his wing and just kind of, helped groom to shape me a little bit more in the faith. And so until this day, we still have a very, very, very close relationship.
So before we talk about where you're at now, planning the church you're in, where else now? What other ministries were you a part of? Did you served at?
Um, Ministries. I served my first actual pastorate job was in Athens, Alabama, and I started there. We had about maybe 50 people, in a little small church, and we grew that ministry to over right out good to 100, a little bit better than 100 members. And so from there, I left Athens and went to Huntsville, Alabama, where I am now. And so yeah, so Huntsville, then I went to Florida for a while, and served as an assistant and a youth pastor.
All right, so you talked about it some in Tyler, but share a little bit. How did you go from the Church of Christ to a Baptist and find your way into the BBFI?
Okay, yeah. So like I was sharing there in Tyler, I began to, as when I was in seminary, and actually that's when it kind of started to come full circle for me. I started studying and diving into the word studies and exegeting scriptures and all this kind of stuff. And so my first, when I got into my Greek one-on-one class, so I started to learn some different things and terminologies and meanings of words and things. And I started asking questions about some of the things that we were doing and teaching, in the churches of Christ. And so it just kind of snowballed into the fact that, make a long story short, as I began to question, I began to do different things, in my belief, as I grew in knowledge and understanding of the word. There were people and other pastors that didn't sit well with a lot of people.
Hmm.
So it didn't relate, and I don't know if you know much about it, but when you go against the grain there, it's almost like a death sentence. Put
Hmm.
it that way. So
Hmm.
and I but I knew that I was on the right track because even some of these guys will tell me or will share with me things like, you're right, but we can't, for the sake of our tradition and da 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 da,
Hmm.
we can't teach that or we can't preach that from our pulpits.
Hmm.
And so a lot of things are covered up and a lot of things are hidden when they know better. And I couldn't bring myself to keep doing that.
Hmm.
And so I stepped away. I think it was 2009. 2009, I walked away. And that's when you know, had the idea. God placed on my heart to plant a ministry. I didn't know what I was doing. I guess we'll talk about that a little bit more too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that moment that when I realized that what I was doing was not in God's will.
Yeah.
Um, you know.
Hey, let's talk about Body of Christ Church, where you're at now, where you started. You talked about starting it right before COVID all happened. Talk about
Yeah.
what did a church planner go through when they're trying to plan a church and then a global pandemic happens? How did that impact you as a church planner?
Oh man, it was that I think that was one of the toughest things that I not only starting the church is very, very hard. I had no idea what I was doing. Um, I just knew that God was calling me to do something. And so we started our church. Actually, we started our church with 8 people in my living room with a Bible study. Just some family and friends. From some of them came from Church of Christ that came with us, that started with us. And so we we just kept each week just kept meeting and then after a while it snowballed into the fact that we had more people than our house had room.
Hmm.
And so um we began to just kind of pray and and kept meeting, and God blessed us to meet some good people in the process of us doing that. And so we we just kept doing what we were doing. I had no clue, no idea. Like I told the conference in Tyler, I didn't have a sending church. I didn't have any support. I didn't have anything. All I had was God's word and his voice just leading and guiding us. And so we have been blessed to have met some great people, along the way. So that's pretty much how we got started.
Yeah. So talk about your church now. What have you seen? What's exciting you about your church plant right now? And you got a building and seeing some momentum.
Yeah.
Share what's happened with your church right now.
Well, yeah, now we are. Well, kind of have to kind of share with you how we got the building. We tried to merge two congregations together. Our congregation, along with another SBC church. At the time, it was named All Nations Church. They were transitioning pretty much out. The community had began to change around them, and so the dynamics of the community started to change. They were getting older. Most of their younger generation had moved out from the area and were attending churches somewhere else. And they just struggled with trying to meet the needs of a changing or evolving community around them. And it was all white congregation. And so it was now you have a community that is mainly Hispanic and African American. And so they just had a hard time trying to reach those individuals. And so they called me and asked me to come over and talk to the deacons and the pastor and consider taking over the property and putting our church in here and ministering to the community. And they wanted an African American pastor to do it. And so I asked them in the midst of all that, I said, well, what are you planning to do? Are y'all leaving or what's happening? So they were like, well, we're just gonna go to church somewhere, go somewhere else and start attending church. And I said, well, what do you think about us trying to bring our churches together? Since you guys were trying to be multicultural, we want to be multicultural. So it would be a great fit, we thought. And so, but bringing our church is young. It's a green church. It's most of our people didn't know ministry. They were first time Christians. A lot of them. They were very young, so they just knew what we were doing, and we weren't affiliated with anybody. And so we just we tried it. We tried to merge the church together. And of course, I could tell the two different worship styles was just totally different. So the older folks was like, we don't understand this. And so
Oh,
I think within a year, we had a great falling away. Needless
no.
needless to say, that's from both parts though, because we were trying to change things to meet people where they were, and it just wasn't working. It
Yeah.
just didn't work. And so so it pretty much, Randy, we had to start over. We had
Mm,
to basically start from ground zero, because COVID. Remember, we still in the middle of COVID while all this is happening,
mm,
and so man, it was bad. It was really bad. But
yeah.
we ended up going through with it. We brought the churches together. We put two merger teams together, and from both congregations, and that's how we ended up with this property we have
Mm,
now. And so, but most of those people who were part of this church or part of this location are gone. We
mm,
probably have about maybe five of
yeah.
their 70 or 80 people.
So take a minute. Think back on that now because that's interesting scenario. And I talk to pastors quite a lot that are talking about maybe merging with another church. What's a lesson or two you learned during that process that you'd share with someone else that may be praying about or talking to another church about merging churches together?
The only thing is you got to make sure, I would say make sure that the two visions for the merger is got to be, they have to be similar.
Mm,
Um, because otherwise it just, if one group has their idea and another group got their idea of where we're going, then it's kind of it's it's just no brainer that it's gonna clash.
yeah.
And that's what happened with us. And I think that, and I would say this, I try to do everything in my power to explain, you know, where we were going, and I think that some people still didn't. I don't think they heard it.
Mm.
Just kind of went in one end out the other. And then when they finally got into it, then they're like, oh no, this ain't for me, you
Mm.
know. So,
So let's talk about how you got connected to the BBFI. I think it's an interesting story. You didn't grow up BBFI. You didn't even know what the BBFI was probably. Talk
Nope.
about how you connected with Dan, with the Apex Church Assessment, with Randy Abel, all these guys. Talk about how you kind of got connected and what you've done with the BBFI.
Well, I got connected with Dan through the Southern Baptist Church assessment. And so through Jarman Leatherwood, another friend that I was introduced to, introduced me to Dan and Tim Milner here in Huntsville. So I met Dan at the actual going through the assessment with the SBC. And so we became really good friends, from then. I didn't even know Dan was BBFI. I didn't know he was part of the BBF churches at that time. And so he was kind of like involved with helping them with their assessment processes.
Hmm.
And so we talked and really didn't have a real friendship at that time, but I just admired how he did things. And I would call and pick his brain about certain stuff. So in the middle of us, we're coming out of COVID, we've lost pretty much all of our church. Nobody was coming back when we came back into the building. And I became very frustrated. I was really frustrated. It was at a point to where I was like, well, maybe this is not what we need to do. Maybe we're going to be one of these churches that close our doors and just find somewhere else to go or do something else different. So my last ditch effort, and I thought about it and I prayed about it. God put Dan on my heart, and I called him. And a few leaders that we come out of this COVID era with. And I said, well, I want to bring them to your church, and I want you to talk to us about some strategies and different things that you guys did in order to bounce back from this. And so we did that. We came down one weekend, stayed the entire weekend with Dan, and he met with us, walked us through the church. And so after that meeting, me and him met again, and he said that I may have something, that will help you,
Hmm.
that will be a blessing to you. And I was like, oh, he set up, but I'm gonna talk to you about it. So we met, and he then began to talk about Apex. He talked about, asked me, how did I know anything about BBF? And I told him, no, I never heard of it, like that. So he's all right. I want to introduce you to some people. So Terry Kaiser, he got on the phone. He called Terry. Terry called me. They invited me to come down for the assessment, and they're in Texas.
Yeah, that's where we first met.
Yeah, that's where I first met you. And so then that's how it got started. So from there, it's just been, me trying to get to know everybody. But yeah, so then Dan was kind of leading our area here in North Alabama. And so I got an opportunity to see some of the guys there here in the state through Zoom, our Zoom meetings and things like that. So
Yeah.
that's how I so I actually went to California for my first time going to the conference. I can't remember where it was.
Yeah, that's in Fresno or
Fresno.
Clovis. Yeah.
Yes, yes. That was my first real introduction to BBFI.
Yeah, we didn't scare you off after that meeting.
No, no, no. No,
I'll tell Otis, good job. We didn't scare you off. We didn't scare you away.
no, no, no,
So
no.
now, so just here recently, you've kind of got knighted by Dan. Where I'm going to say Dan, we're talking about Dan Woodcock,
Yes,
in Gadsden. You just kind
yes,
of got knighted by Dan and selected by all the rest of the pastors to be the state rep for Alabama. So I mean,
right.
you're new to the fellowship, but you're a big wig in the fellowship now. All of a
Oh
sudden,
my goodness. Yeah, some kind of way. I don't know how that happened, but
that happens a lot when you go to meetings and you step out to go to the bathroom, and then you come
right.
back and you don't know what you got voted into.
Yeah, they voted you in.
So talk about that a little bit. I know you're brand new as a state rep for Alabama, but I think it's interesting. Dan did a great job getting it relaunched. I was there a few years ago whenever there wasn't an Alabama fellowship, and we kind of helped relaunch it there at Dan's church in Gadsden. But there's a handful of guys, but I think it's neat. You guys meet via Zoom, and then when you do meet in person, it's usually on Saturdays because there's so many bivocational pastors in Alabama. Talk about just real quickly what the state fellowship kind of looks like in Alabama right now.
Yeah, it's actually looks good. Like you said, Dan did a great job, man. And Dan, like I told him the other night, I set up our first Zoom meeting for next Wednesday. And so, and I told him, I said, I feel like these some huge shoes I gotta fill, and coming in as the newbie, the new guy, and I'm like, how in the world I get here? But I really enjoy listening to all of our pastors here. They have a lot of great ideas. A lot of things that they're doing is helping me because my strength is not um, organization. So that just the truth. But and I do good, but there are some guys are like really good at it.
Mm,
And Dan and Chris Dukas is two of those guys that that I lean on for stuff like that. And
yeah,
so and to have these other guys that's in our fellowship that has different strengths and different talents and abilities to chime in. And so that's what I'm looking forward to doing with them in a couple of weeks here, getting together and just kind of picking their brains about, what God is doing in their churches and their ministries and things of that nature. And so they've been very open to share. And that has really, I think that's really going to help strengthen our fellowship even more.
hey, let's talk kind of personally. I'll ask you a personal question. What's something that God's teaching you right now, whether it's personally,
Mm,
ministry? What's something that God's challenging you with right now?
man, one of those things I believe is patience. Uh,
Uh-oh.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just kind of, just being able to to wait for him to do that. It's like it's that anxiousness of looking at your situation and looking at our ministry and saying here's my whole reason for that is because I want to be I want to be full-time pastor. I want to pastor my church every single day. That I want that to be my only job. And so, and I've been praying about this, and praying about this, and just constantly, and I'm trying to exercise the patience to wait on His timing. And I do believe that everything works according to God's timing.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that that's one of the things that he has me in this place now to just be patient because there's a reason. I believe that everything happens for a particular reason. So patience has been one of the things, and I see it all throughout the ministry. As we place things, we try to put things in place, and you're looking for it to take off and really take root and for it to go forward, and it's moving slow. And
Mm,
so what God is saying, hey, just slow down, and wait on me. So
yeah. So you might have just confused some people when you said be a pastor full time. So a lot of people. One of my questions I was going to ask you right now, here coming up, I'll ask you now. What's something about you that a lot of people don't know, and that's you're actually bivocational
yes,
pastor. But you got the coolest side gig a pastor could have. I mean, I think a lot of pastors would love to be bivocational if they had your side job. So tell everybody what
right.
your side job is.
My side job is the head golf coach at the University of Alabama A&M.
Yeah,
So that
and a
is
golf pro, right?
a golf pro. So being a golf pro and coaching college golf is it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I can tell you that. It's a lot of the golf has taken me to some places, man. I tell you that I would have never thought I would be, and just sitting here, I would have never imagined even saying golf pro, so from where I started from,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
it's been a blessing. At the same time, as much as I love it and enjoy it, I just feel a strong, sense of need to be more of my time needs to be done in ministry. So
Yeah, I get that 100%. But
yeah.
while we're on the golf thing, what's the nicest or maybe the most famous golf course you've ever played on?
Oh gosh, there's a few. Two of my favorite would be TPC Sawgrass and Whistling Straits.
Hmm.
Those are two of my favorites.
Where are they at?
Wisconsin and then in Florida. They're in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah. Are those
Yeah.
both PGA courses?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So pretty cool. Pretty cool to be able to. I have to show you some pictures sometime
yeah.
of some of the especially the Whistling Straits. It's breathtaking. It's kind of mind blowing to see some of these courses that the guys play on TV. And then for you to be standing in the fairway exactly where these guys were when they hit this shot, it's kind of like it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is very
Then
cool.
Pebble Beach is another one. Pebble Beach is another beautiful place.
Yeah, you played Pebble Beach?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a bucket list thing for me. That's
Yeah.
isn't that the only public course that's on the PGA Tour?
Yeah. Well, Whistler Straits is public.
Oh, it is?
It's you can go there and play it. All right, but it's gonna cost you $300 to
Yeah. Well, I think
do it.
Pebble Beach is like 500, so I'm not playing it
500. So
anytime
they
soon.
kind of
So,
it's the same. It's the Whistler Straits is the same.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, well, good. Hey, let's end this with what I call some quick hitters. I want to give you a couple things, and you tell me what jumps out to you, which one is you. Okay, so I got a couple different things. So, would you rather? This is where I always start. Read a book or watch a movie?
Read a book.
Really?
Yeah.
What's your favorite book? Are you a fiction guy, nonfiction, biography, history? What do you like to read?
I really like to read a lot of leadership stuff.
Yeah,
Um, Max Lucado, um, Albert Moeller are two of my favorites.
yeah, yeah,
So, but yeah, I read a book.
yeah. What's a better vacation? Going to the beach, or going to the mountains?
Beach.
Beach? Yeah, you're
Beach.
not far. How long does it take
I'm
you to
not,
get
and
to the
then here's
beach?
the crazy thing where I say that. I'm not a beach guy. I really don't, but I'm not I tell you what, I do like the Smokies. I'm
Okay.
not, I would rather go to the Smokies than go to the beach. I'll put it that
Hmm.
way.
I'm a
Yeah.
beach guy when I'm golfing because my ball always winds up in the sand. So that's just or the water. I'm that guy that that optical, that illusion, whatever. If there's water there, my ball's finding it.
It's
So
going
you
there.
got you
Oh,
got to help
see,
me with that next time.
I
Because what?
got to get you to start thinking different, Randy. You got to think different. You got
There
to
you
think.
go. There you go. I need that help. I need that help. All right. What's your favorite season? Are you a fall or winter or spring or summer? What's your favorite season?
Spring, summer.
Yeah, that's the best time for golf, right?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
love I love spring when they start showing those Masters commercials on
Oh
CBS,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah. It's getting close to the time then.
Yeah, 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 yeah. All right, are you a professional sports guy or a college sports guy?
Both. I like both,
Yeah,
but I would prefer college.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
so we
Go
we, we
fast.
mentioned at the beginning you're in Alabama, but you're not a Roll Tide guy, right?
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
Florida
How, how,
Gator.
how'd you get connected to the Gators?
I was I was in the middle school and I just I just started following them and I like the Gators. I just it was more or less like, you know, Emmett Smith, I was really crazy about Emmett,
Yeah,
and so kind of picked up there and it's been with them ever since.
yeah. I like the Gators too. That was a team I adopted when I started ministry in Orlando, Florida. So I like the Gators too. And
But if I'm not cheering for the Gators, it's Georgia Bulldogs. That's my second team.
you can't cheer for both of them. Come on, they're rivals.
That's my second team.
Those are
That's
rivals. You can't
the
do that.
Bulldogs are my second
That's
team.
cheating, Devins. Come on.
But now when we play in Georgia, it's all Florida. So,
There you
so
go. Okay, okay, okay. what's a better movie, a comedy or a drama or an action? What kind of movie you like?
Oh, I like comedy and action.
Okay,
So
are you in?
comedy would be my pick if I had
Yeah,
to.
I like that. Are you a what kind of dessert you like? You like cake or pie?
Neither.
Neither? Oh, you're one of those health guys. You don't eat desserts, do you?
I I don't eat a lot of sweets.
No.
Now, if I'm eating a sweet, it's got to be a sweet potato pie.
Sweet potato pie. That
Yeah.
doesn't count as a sweet. That's still a vegetable.
That's my favorite, sweet potato pie.
Can I claim that as a vegetable next time I eat one?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right. On road trips, or on a road trip, do you want to fly there? So it's not really a road trip. Would you rather fly to vacation or drive to vacation? You like driving?
Wow.
Yeah, fly. Just get there.
I want to get there.
I
I hate
understand. All right. When you're studying for your sermons, do you like it in a coffee shop or in a quiet office?
quiet office.
Yeah, got
Yeah,
to focus, right?
yeah, quiet office.
All right. Last
I don't
question.
I don't see how the kids do it. I don't see how
Yeah.
they watch TV and study on. Because I always get on my kids about you can't be studying and TV's blasted.
Yeah,
But they
they
do.
do it. They do it.
Yep.
All right, last question. If you had one meal the rest of your life, you eating tacos or you eating pizza? Or
Neither.
neither? What? You don't eat sweets and you don't eat tacos and pizza? What
I will,
are you
but
a
that's
machine
not
or what?
that wouldn't be my choice of food to eat if
All
that was
right, you
the
got one. What are you eating?
I would eat fried chicken, collard greens, and cornbread. That would be my all time.
There you go. You going out to a restaurant to eat that somewhere? Can your wife cook that?
My wife cooks it. My wife
Yeah.
cooks it. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
good. Hey, Devins, this was fun. I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Sure.
I know, again, being fairly new to the fellowship, hopefully, you're going to get more. More people are going to know you now than you know them, probably.
Yeah, that's cool. That is
You
so
got
cool.
you got any last words of wisdom you want to share with everybody before we go?
Uh, Not really. Just, I think because one of the things I think you had on the sheet was favorite scripture. Mine was be Romans 8, 28.
Yeah,
Uh, we know all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose.
right, right.
And just to know that nothing goes wasted in our lives as a child of God. God uses everything ultimately to work in our favor, to shape us, to build our character, to keep us in line with His will. And so that to me, that's one of the things that keeps me going, no matter what happens in my life or any circumstance that I find myself in is that God is going to work this out in a way that is going to benefit me.
Yeah,
And so that's how I try to live every day. So I
yeah,
don't look at situations that are wasted. I look at it as an opportunity for growth and for God to show himself to be who he said he is.
yeah. That's a great ending word. Romans 8:28. It's a verse we all need to know and not only know but live out, and it takes faith to do that. So, Devin, thanks for taking the time to join us on this episode of the Fellowship Podcast, and everybody listening or watching. I appreciate you taking the time, and we'll see you in our next conversation.